just a quick bio for me is like I'm Han and really glad to be talking, sharing all of those experience and exploration I've been having um, over the several years. So let's just start it from here. Because I actually wanted to have more time living for this Q&A that we can really talk about it as a conversation.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
more, than just me talking about all of the projects. So let's go over some of the project first. This is a branding and packaging I've already done, but I'm still working on the website for this client. He is based in Korea, and he reached out to me like saying wanted to create this like really herbal based skincare brand which really focus on the inner energy of the body and how to make the body to cure or make their own skin better from the inside out and from the outside to the inside as well. So the idea of this logo is to create those two rounded shape and to make those expanded, like make those stroke expanded from the center. So it's like you have this movement from the outside or from the boundary to the center of those shapes. So those are some variations, like where the stroke is like fairly thin enough and where it's really strong and dark, which is like almost reaching to the center. So this is basically how the logo from the concept to the visual element, how it's been built up. Just some other box applications. And this is another typeface. I'm sorry for those projects it's like been ordered in according to the time I did them. But yeah, this is another typeface I designed for a show exhibition. Actually, the idea was like the clients, they're a good friend of mine. They reach out to me, says they already have this one illustrator, whose style was like having those strokes going on into the space, and they already print all of those illustrations in the gallery space. So they were me like there's any way that we could to create this show identity where which can really combine the visual language of this artist and also really wanted to be simple enough to only carry the information of the show, nothing too decorative. So I created this typeface where I raised out the connection part or of the of the letters and then replace those with those really crazy illustrations, really strokes. I actually done this in an Illustrator and I tried thousands of times to just make sure that all of those letters looks balanced in a way that how it works out in the layout in the real context. This one is actually a fairly simple book I designed. I guess yeah, this is like 11 photographer was invited in this project. They was asked to take photos in the room during the quarantine time. So I just did that. I'm afraid I don't have more photos of the inside, but this is fairly simple book.
Yeah.
We've got the book. Yeah, it's literally.
We literally just won it the other day.
Oh, then I can talk about it because the idea was like having the photo to be organized on the top of the page and then the page number in the bottom of the page and then there's like description of the artist of the individual who took the photos. This like all of the information laying under the page number. So you can see this hierarchy of the image, of the page number, of all of the other information in the book, and the colophon as well.
Nice.
So let's jump to another one. Oh, this one is like super commercial project. I guess there's nothing to talk about for this one, but basically those triangles created based on the letter form K, because you can see this area, which is like from this point to that, I have this reflection of the light to a surface and then bouncing back and then highlights those areas. This is another Chinese commercial packaging project. Really simple, but trying to combine the modern Western design style into the traditional Chinese context, how to make it like work in a way. This is the project I think I've been talking about for over years. This is actually one of my first packaging project I got really early. I believe it's 2006 or 2000. No, it's 2016 or 2018. I can't remember the exact year, but this is a package project I did for a healthy aspirin brand, where when you enter, in the aspirin industry, it's like have this really cliche type of visual language that you have a picture of your flavor, like for example a chocolate or a cookie printed on a cup, and then you have this really milky, really delicious milk that pour into aspirin ball, and then in different colors, the balls are gonna change colors on package. So what I did for this aspirin brand is like trying to avoid using images, just using the information, because for healthy aspirin, the customer will be trying to understand or trying to looking for the nutrition fact, that where they're read for how many calories, how many facts they're actually taking in by this cup of aspirin. So we took all of those information on the cap to showcase the information that really customer care about, and the logo is really big here, so nothing else, all of those other information is on the back, and then only use the color and the text to showcase the flavor different. I think that's pretty enough, and you can tell from the distance that which flavor that was. For example, on the right, this is the milk tea flavor, and on the left is the chocolate flavor. Yes, this is a cap. That is for a skincare brand. Like this is a shampoo package that's really simple. I mean, I personally, only thing I want to talk about this project is like the hierarchy of the layout of the information, where you can see the logo is actually down there, and then the shampoo name is here, and those two in another typeface are the main ingredient of the shampoo. So it's kiwi down there, and then there's like a paragraph of the description of the shampoo. So all of those information are being laid out in different typesetting, different fonts, and different sizes. They're all centered in the same surface, and then just to trying to play around with the traditional skincare visual language, that all of the information mostly centered in a on the front side, so just make it more playful in that way. And that is a package and a branding project I did for a kind of like clinic hair caring brand, that where they provide a solution for those men who have this hair problem. Maybe they fall off most like have this problem falling out pairs. So the idea of this packaging and this brand is to borrow the visual language from the actual paper of related subject, because sometimes when we encounter like a really some product, they claim they can work, but sometimes they don't. So what we're trying to do here is to borrow all of those paper quotes. This is all of the real paper quote from the other researcher. They have been done this ingredient can do that to this group of human, and this ingredient can do that, or have this clearly improvement into this problem. So we borrow all of those information, lay on the package to give that sense of scientific, really working sense of feeling to the customer. And the layout is fairly, very strict. Actually, all of those are laid out in the grid that we're started from here, and here you can actually read all of those paper, all of those data on the bottle and the box. And then the logo is here, the name are there. Some more photos. And those are the just number of the product system that where we have 3 products now, and then this PM18 is one of those. And this is how the visual language being used in visual identity for the brand. That's probably the other packaging project I did for this brand. So I actually borrow the shape of the logo to the front of all of the box, the cups, so the containers, and then put the logo inside, and then use 2 typefaces to indicate what the information is going to be. So that's pretty straightforward, and the color is like quite not that bright, which represent the ingredient as those like herbal, highly herbal based ingredients choice. Those are some other photos. Oh, that I don't remember. Oh, I guess yeah. I don't have the inner picture of that book, but I think that could be the last project I talk about through for the day. This project is actually a self-published project. I did this with one of my friends. So the idea was to have those personal pictures in your cell phone, to transform all of those picture into a book format where the order of the photos are being remixed. So I actually had those experience like when I revisit all of my photos when I was in Tokyo. I found out some of the picture is being remixed because of some system bug. I don't know why, but like for this, like when I was looking on my phone for this picture, I was in the restaurant eating a ramen, and then the next one I'm outside in the supermarket, and then the next one is somewhere else, and the next one going back to the ramen restaurant. So it's kind of creating this different alternative storyline. We'll revisit those, and also those reading of the story happened in Tokyo actually work as the same way where your memories serve you, because you don't really remember all of the details from the beginning to the end. So what we did is we create this book. So half of the pages are being binded, and other pages in between there have this really thin paper print all of those photos, and then we push all of those paper pictures in between of each pages. So half of the pages is being binded, and half of the pages is being like you can tear it off, you can put it in somewhere else, in this book. And all of those photos, we actually invited other of my friend who's an artist as well to contribute all of those personal photos. Some of the photos really personal, so to speak. So we actually to put some black box onto it to make sure it can be published. It's actually like looking into someone's memory or experience of stories. Have this like when I actually go through all of those pictures, I kind of have this intimate relationship between me and this artist build up throughout the reading process. So that's pretty much what I can show today. If we have time, I can show more, but I'm happy to jump into the Q&A session to have this.
Yeah. Yeah. Does
Yeah,
any
thank you so much for that.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the analogy.
I was just saying thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
does anybody have some question about?
Yeah, so am I right in thinking that you're based in New York?
Right, because I've been to New Haven is pretty close.
Wait, what, sorry?
New Haven.
Oh, okay.
New Haven, to be honest, most of the time, because I'm in
Yeah.
now, so I have
Yeah,
to.
how do you find, sorry, not sure if there's a bit of a delay on that. How do you find like the design scene there and like the work-life kind of culture in your area, and like what's that experience of being like an independent designer, like not in a studio? What's that kind of experience like, kind of being by yourself in that culture?
Right. Actually, I think it is really some question I really wanted to answer to, because the way I keep myself work as a freelancer and never change that, actually it gives me more freedom to travel around different country, different cities. So that's one of the big benefits I can get from working as an individual. And to be honest, I moved here like half a year ago, maybe 1 year ago. And before that, I was in Singapore, Cambodia, Shanghai, Beijing, two Chinese cities, and I travel around like in Tokyo, other Japanese cities as well. So all of those experience actually gave me that openness to the possibilities or the visual element around you, because I had experience working in a studio like you guys do. Like we really took on projects, big projects, and really have this, really exciting experience going on throughout the everyday's work. But when you keep going to the same physical location for a really long time, for example, a year or half a year, you kind of get into surrounded by the same environment for too long. So actually, I found this out because of I was having my vacation in between of the year. So I traveled to Tokyo and then came back to the city to the same studio, and then I found out all of my like sort of like visual language changed in a way, and then I feel it's more open to me that it really helpful for really spend like fairly less amount of time on the same project, and then really looking out to other visual language that not familiar with or not get used to throughout the work, because that's very important to build on your personal voice in your design practice, not the studio, like all of the designers struggling with you know making all of the stuff for the studio, and then someday they have to move out or build up their own studio, or sometimes they don't want to look like the studio they've they worked in too much, you know, in order to build out their own
Yeah,
design practice.
Yeah.
totally. That's very reassuring for me because I'm going freelance tomorrow. Anybody else?
I'll go for it. What is your like normal, I guess, creative process, or how is it you best like to approach projects? Is it more like each one you have a completely different way to think about it, or do you have a bit of a set path on how you'd always start that design thinking?
Right. Yeah, actually for me, I tend to have this conversation with the client first. I never work on anything without having a phone call with the client itself, you know. So really for me, I have to understand what the client is looking for from me, because most of the time they think they have their voice for this brand, they have this brief, visual brief or other things, but most of the time they don't know, they didn't know, they don't know their their brand voice. You know, sometimes you have to find or looking for their voice for them in order to help them build up the brand. So most of the time I have to go through for several phone calls with the clients, and then really to sort of together all of the information on my side, and then really build out the brand based on, you know, partially based on the requirement from the client and partially based on my personal experience during that period of time. You know, you cannot say that you're totally objective to the brief. Like you must, or you have to, or you cannot help bring all of those personal experience into that project. So I kind of like mix all of my personal feelings and then the requirement from the client together to see if there are any visual language actually works for this brand. If there's like multiple visual language works, so which one is my favorite, which one would be the client's favorite, which one would work the best, which one would have this more possibilities to be like more longevity in terms of how this brand is gonna develop itself. So there's like different kind of like um, ways to determine which direction you want to go, or you have to go, or the project will go. So for me, it's like I started from here and then push the project with the client throughout the way. Actually, sometimes I have to convince them of the what I see in this project and what they not seeing in this project, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you know, but you still have to work with them to figure out like another way to get around the main conflict from you and the clients. But basically most of the time I guess the result is very satisfying working with all of the clients have been having.
Do they often, when you initially meet these clients, do they come with an idea of what they want it to look like, knowing that they're going to work with you, that there's an aesthetic that they're interested in, or is it always you having to carve that out?
Actually, not all of them. You know, the most difficult client is like the ones who knows what they want.
Yeah.
Because they think they know. and then it's gonna be extremely hard to tell them what I think is the best for you and what I think we should try that. Maybe we should try that color. Maybe that color is not the best work for the Chinese market, or this is not the best work for, you know. So that's clients are the most difficult ones for me.
Yeah, for us as well.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for everyone. Because I guess you want someone to be open, don't you, to an idea. Whereas I guess if they've got something already there, then it's they're kind of not wanting to stray from it. They've already imagined it, and once you've imagined it, it's hard to unimagine it.
Right. Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
I actually love working with clients. Actually, they have this respect or have this giving freedom or room for the designers because they really understand who is the professional designer as we're talking about branding, as we're talking about the packaging. They're not the ones who have this mostly experience in the room, so they have to speak into the designers.
For sure.
Yeah, I have a question because I really love your work, and I think that is because I think it's really experimental in a way. Also, the thing you do for commercial, I think that it's really experimental, but it is something that that you want to do, that to have your personal view also in a commercial work.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I guess so. Because every time I took on a commercial project, I never started from what they see or what they want. I started from what I want, what I want to put out there. Like as a designer, all of the packaging are done by graphic designers. So actually, if all of the designers are aware of their responsibility of shaping the commercial environment, it's gonna be like a totally different conversation between the designers to the clients because actually, everything you see in the supermarket is designed by some graphic designers, and then they have the ability to decide what the supermarket looks like, what the biggest brand like a Tesla or SpaceX, what those logo looks like, what Nike looks like all of those are based on graphic designers. So for me, actually, I've been trying to put my voice in the commercial projects because I'm so interested in commercial projects because those commercial projects have the majority of audience compared to those experimental self-initiative work. So I really wanted to put my voice out there. Every time I started there, and then I think about it, and then this is what I did over the years. All of the packages are fairly different from other, sort of like commercial visual language that we're get used to. So for me, it's quite satisfying, and for the clients as well. And I just trying to have fun throughout the journey.
How long would you normally spend on a project?
Actually,
At least carving out the first like visuals, like the first steps.
Yeah. I guess so, like initial concepts or proposals or sketches.
Right. Are you saying, I was asking that when I decided how long this project will go?
Yeah, I think just it's general understanding of like, if you were to take on a project, how long would you spend on that one project, do you reckon?
Oh yeah, that's really strategy of doing design work right now. So actually, I will think about how much time I have, and I will think about how much work I have to do for this project, and then I give myself a time limit that I will not go like spend more time than that on the project, and then I will get what I have in this limited time period of time, and then this is what it is. I have to stop at some point because you can keep going if you're trying to be better or trying to be like, sometimes we just do other things throughout the way, and then it's like sort of have all of those bunch of other directions. It's not helping for the commercial project because we have to land on somewhere as the final result.
Definitely.
So I wonder sometimes when you, as a designer, if you're given a project and if someone says you've got 2 days to do this thing, sometimes you can do quite a lot more in 2 days than when you get given 3 weeks, because there's that sense of like urgency and your brain starts to think quicker.
Yeah, right, exactly. Same thing for me because I like tight deadlines, which means I can end this like faster.
That's such an interesting way of looking at it. No one's ever said that before.
Excited about what you're doing in 2 days because you're
Yeah.
really trying to do something about it, and then this is it, and then you send it out, and then finish up the conversation. You can focus on other projects.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way of thinking about it.
And then I found out like the best direction, like most of the time, it's always the first sketch you had or first image you had in your brand. That even though you had other directions like later, but still the first one should be for me, the first one is always the one I keep with at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I also saw that you don't do only like commercial, but also quite a lot of books. And if I'm not wrong, also like self-initiated project. So yeah, the thing that I wanted to ask is that um, do you always like start thinking in the same way, also with books and commercial packaging, or it is different for you? Because yeah, the way of designing the object, maybe it's different, but yeah, I don't know if you understand the question.
Right. I understand. Actually, it's a good question that for me, I have other personal projects going on. Actually, at the very beginning, I had 2 different methods dealing with different type of projects. But then I found out actually it's quite useful to bring some of the strategies in the commercial project into your personal practice, because you have to still, even though it's your personal practice, you have to land it somewhere, and then to set yourself a system or some structure back in your head that really gives you rooms or gives you guidelines of direction of exploration in yourself personal project is really helpful. And for me, because right now I'm in the Yale graphic design program, so I did a lot of projects in the same in a single semester, because every time I had an idea, I would give myself 2 days to make those, and then end up being like have a bunch of projects, and then have a lot of fun doing it. And then at the end of the semester, I have a lot to talk about with the instructor, with the professors. So it's a lot of fun to bring the commercial thinking into the personal practice.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask us? Flip it in another direction.
My question is very, very practical. Like, designers have a bunch of different projects. I wanted to know that how you see the energy you get. Let me put it that way. Because the designers actually work as a team, as a studio. They took a bunch of other projects together, and then have like more energy on each single one of the projects, and then they can output like their voice or their vision of the graphic design out there. So I'm wondering, do you guys think there's a perfect amount of person like the amount of people work as the studio is the best amount of because
So, as in, so like the optimal amount of people in a studio or optimal amount of people per project?
it's for a studio in a studio because this
Yeah.
energy sort of like if you have too many people in the studio,
Sure.
you can't really control.
No,
I feel like no, we're a good number.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like surely anything more than like 20 would be tipping into like there's too many voices, because I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's like how many designers you have, because like if we would say 15 people, that would be like other types of people, if that makes sense, like other roles and responsibilities, not just designers. So it's quite a hard one. I wouldn't say big.
Yeah, I think it depends on like the structure. There's so many structures of studios. I think it needs to be proportionate. So if you have an X amount of designers, I think you should have an X amount of like project managers or an X amount of like creative directors. So I think for me, like, I don't think there's like a right or wrong number. It's all about the framework that's here to support these creatives. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot would be preference as well, of just like the individuals, I suppose, within like the studios.
It's also knowing like it's like balance of hierarchy as well, I think, and knowing where you step in on a project and when you don't, and when if 3 people are on a project, who makes a decision or how decisions get made, or do you make it together? And I think if you can balance all those things, and it like Marion said, it kind of almost doesn't matter how many people you have. But it's when you have too many opinions, and that's the only thing with the studios. Obviously, you've got more people, so you can have more voices, and it offers up more creative opportunity, but also more like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? It can add a lot more like confusion.
Yeah.
But I think as long as it's structured in the right way, if anything, it just means you put more brains into one thing. So for us, it works quite well.
The only thing I would say also is that what works about our numbers at the moment, I think we're like, what are we like, just over 10? Or
Yeah, sort of 10 or 12, something like that.
yeah.
But not 10 designer, are we?
No, not 10 designers.
No, not designers.
But like 7 designers in the studio at the moment. And what's quite nice about the atmosphere that we have at the moment is that like we get to know each other well, and we develop good relationships like as a group, so we can be like more honest with people, or like there's kind of like a lot of respect for each other, whereas like if you have a big studio, I just like working in previous studios, you don't get to know people on the same level if you're a huge amount of people, and I think that's one advantage to being like a smaller team.
I think as well, it's like everyone within our studio is like a very important cog within like the greater machine, whereas like if you get to an analogy, where it's like you can offer, I've not been in a bigger studio to know, but I could imagine people could end up kind of like slipping under the radar, or not feeling like they're given like the responsibility or like challenges that they need to be able to like develop. And being with like a closer knit, like small team, I think allows you to do that, especially as you're like developing, like learning your craft.
Yeah. Do you often collaborate on any of your projects, or are they always by yourself?
I collaborate with programmers, never collaborate with graphic designers, because that's actually for myself, for this period of time, I just trying to have fun. So I'm not trying to get more like different voices around here. Just like wanted to have my voices in my head, and then I can really balance the time of input of different projects. Because you don't have to work with other. Once you decided to work with other graphic designers, you have to work with them, talk with them, actually to arrange time with them. It's gonna take so much energy to slow you down for other projects. Because right now I just like wanted to move really fast, and then it could be a totally different conversation if I decided to settle down in a city and open up a studio that really build up this relationship between individuals, between a client, and then it's really healthy to have like several designers to work with, because they always have great ideas you never ever thought of that you're a different person.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, but how do you manage the time as a freelancer when you don't have ideas? Because yeah, because it happens, I think, no?
That is such a good question.
I should ask that question to every graphic designer. Wow. Wait a minute, I have to think about that. So ideally, if I'm working on several projects, if I don't have idea for that project, I always can work on other projects to take up all of the times. But if I work on two projects, I don't have ideas for both of them. I I will pretty much watch a video, YouTube video or blog or Instagram or just interview with, because my like spare time I spend a lot of time watching fashion shows, because those shows actually can give me this ability or this time of quietness. You don't even have to pay attention to the shows because there are people walking around in the same garment, and then you don't have to pay attention to the entire show, but you got the idea, you got excited, and then the music is really fun, and then I will look at the details, and then some things will going on in my back of my head. So for me, as like mostly it's like I like put on a soda and some snacks, like by the television, and then started watching YouTube video of fashion show, and then after maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes, I have some idea. And then to the computer and stop watching the show.
Maybe
That's really cool.
we should do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again.
Thanks so much and have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you. You guys have a good day too.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Goodbye.